How to actually get freelance clients' free leads across the USA from Craigslist. Back in January, I started freelancing to make some additional income while working a job, with the chance of growing the service into an agency. It's been really good practice for building a business, learning about all the processes and systems that make up one and maintaining it well. A few months later, I'm bringing on my first intern to take off some of the workload. Granted, it wasn't always like this. As the title suggests, I metaphorically beat my head against a wall trying to get that first client from Upwork, which never came, by the way. On the other hand, I'm slightly reluctant to post this because my margins aren't huge. Certainly not enough to live on, yet. But, this is written for those who have tried Upwork but aren't getting the results they want. It's incredibly discouraging to keep going when you've had 0 responses, for months. A change in approach is all it took, and the response has been overwhelmingly positive. Now, I'm not saying that making a lot of money on Upwork is impossible. But, if you're having a hard time getting responses, then it's probably time to sow. This is written for the guys who are just on the edge of making something happen. The biggest problem I have with Upwork is that it is a closed feedback loop. If you don't get a response to your custom-tailored, you-focused application, you will have no idea why it didn't work. That alone is enough to drive anyone mad. With that in mind, let's remember the reason you're doing this in the first place. If you're trying to freelance, the goal is not. Upwork is not a magic bullet. It is simply a source of leads, and other sources exist. With that being said, there are plenty of lead sources and methods of reaching out. One of my favorites is reaching out to posts on Craigslist. Yes, now, it does have some flaws. But I like it for a few reasons. Take my analogy below. I've tried reaching out by cold contacting agencies, responding to Upwork requests, and responding to Craigslist requests. Imagine in your mind's eye an image of yourself, and in your right hand is a glass of water. The glass of water is the service you're offering, and your objective is to give this water to someone thirsty. So, you walk into an agency, and get right in the face of the owner. You ask, "Do you want some water?" Their reply, "No, I am fine for now. But thanks. Come back in 2 months when I might be thirsty." Well, that's a while, so on you go. You walk into the door of Upwork, right up to the first person that catches your eye. You ask, "Do you want some water?" Well, this Upwork dude is drowning in a sea of a million other "Do you want some water"ers, unable to gasp for a sudden breath of air to give you a reply. Or so it seems. So, to prevent your sudden death of drowning in a sea of forgettable "Do you want some water"ers, on you go. But this time it's different, and you'll be surprised by the result. You walk into Craigslist, right up to the first person that catches your eye. You ask, "Do you want some water?" Before you can even finish your sentence, this Craigslist dude knocks you over and snatches your water because they've been dragging their feet through the hot desert for 29 days. Their post expires after 30. Prepared to die and desperate for someone to hand them a glass of water. All in all, the response has been overwhelmingly positive. Here is a comparison for Upwork and Craigslist: proposals sent versus responses received. 38 proposals or 1 response equals 3% response rate. WTF? 13 proposals or 9 responses equals 70% response rate. I'm telling you, this didn't take long. If you've been beating your head against a wall, maybe all you need is a change of approach. All you need is a small change. Once you find that change, it will make all the difference and grant you the overwhelming confidence to keep going. Because you know there is a way. Anyway, there are some cool things about Craigslist. So far. You have a smaller talent pool to compete with, and prospects are already actively looking for a solution. You never have to go in cold ever again. and they'll be overwhelmingly grateful for your help. You keep your prospects in the loop. They don't just disappear after the job is filled like Upwork feedback. If your prospect doesn't respond, you can ping them and find out why. This is impossible on Upwork, and this information will be vital in revising your strategy. That's all for now. But stick around. In the next couple of posts I will dissect my entire process here, and show you some very powerful tools to get the same results. Stay tuned. Agree. Business is like tuning an instrument, every method is a different pitch, and finding harmony takes patience and feedback. Why are your margins thin with so much demand? Why can't you charge more? Hey Tev, thanks for your question. To be honest, this is why I was slightly reluctant to post. I'm in the process of raising my prices for new work. If I were to go back in time and do it differently, I wouldn't charge so low right out the gate. My service is recurring, so I wanted to do whatever it takes to get the foot in the door, do an amazing job for the customer, and keep them coming back. Also, a big part of that thought process was to collect testimonials to show to new work. It's awesome to read posts by those willing to try different things and make their own way. Thanks for sharing. It's a struggle sometimes, a grind. But this is the path of results. I assumed it was one and done gigs. You're absolutely right to do it like this. Great thread. Have you tried replying to Craigslist posts with people looking to hire a 9-to-5 employee rather than a freelancer and pitch them on why they should go with the freelancer instead of hiring an employee? This is really creative. Thank you for sharing this. I may try my hand in this. Glad you asked, and absolutely. One is in the pipeline right now. We'll let you know how that one plays out. There is literally no difference between employee and reliable freelancer. If your deliverables are subcontracted, what they don't know won't hurt them. You're describing channel, messaging and reach. I talk about this in chapter 40 of Thanks for sharing what is working for you. Did you try Reddit? I'm thinking about posting some of my services there too. I have Upwork but I never tried Craigslist. But I know a colleague who get jobs there. Maybe it's time to give it a try. Sent from my Samsung SMN900A using TaperTalk. Good question. Reddit was an amazing place to get my first practice clients in, a technique I'll discuss in the next post. Since then, I haven't bothered all that much with Reddit as a viable lead source. In my experience, the audience I was interacting with wasn't very receptive to paid services. Sadly, the picture isn't pretty, but don't let it be a discouragement. Ultimately, your results are going to depend on a lot of things. There's no telling until you test. By all means, start picking your colleagues' brains and see if you can glean anything from it. It's clear somebody figured it out. I'll flesh out finding work on other platforms in a later post. But in the meantime, feel free to PM me with your current progress and results. Maybe we can assess your strategy thus far. I don't think he was referring to Reddit ads, but rather answering and responding to Reddit business owners' problems with your solution. Ads aren't well received on Reddit because for the most part Redditors are losers with no money who absolutely had people with money. The diamonds in the rough are the select few business owners on r or small business and related subreddit. My first 3 lead generation clients are from those subreddit. Very helpful. What part of CL are you getting leads from? I go to CL every day. There is a lot to sift through. Cool. I will send you the results. I actually got a very good customer from there. So, I want to try to post there more frequently offering my services. I didn't advertise really on Reddit. I just go to subreddits where people offer services, like or search for job, and someone contacted me. And in doing some stuff for him. A pretty good customer really. I let you know what I find out. I will also post the results here in the forum. Sent from my Samsung SMN900A using TaperTalk. Yes, Azure. That was what I was doing. I search subreddits about jobs, services offered, and I post a message offering my service and a link to my portfolio. Sent from my Samsung SMN 900A using TaperTalk. Thanks for sharing numbers. I guess another way of looking at this: if you're going to hire, use Upwork. The supply far outweighs the demand, allowing you to get better labor cheaper. I totally agree. This dynamic on Upwork makes it a great place to hire, especially if you know the subject matter yourself and can judge competence without relying too much on reviews. For anyone interested in working on Upwork as a freelancer, I'd advise hiring some simple things out as a client so you understand that experience might not be what you'd expect. Hey, rather than repost a bunch of what I wrote in my previous post, you can go to my thread on how I freelance and made 6 figures the past year. Might give you some more ideas on growing as well. Hope it helps. In this section, I want to talk about structuring the services you'd like to offer. We never want to stretch ourselves too thin in the services we provide, so this section will help distill your offerings down to the ones with the most impact. I like to use the sliding scale below to structure our efforts. Skills, greater than services, greater than keywords, greater than sales. Each one I'll touch on. But for now, we will focus only on, and there are 2 seriously important reasons for going through it and actually doing the exercises. This mantra should be nailed into your head: I will help someone, somehow, without expecting anything in return. Now, there are some people who will rebuke this with an "if I just help people all day, how will I make any money?" Well, that's a valid argument, but the truth is, in the beginning, like most people, you'll be scarce and selfish as hell. Not only is it overbearing in your day-to-day, but your prospects will smell it if you don't break through your conditioning. All in all, our mantra is an overcompensation for our default scarce and selfish behaviors. With experience, I've found it's better to weigh on the side of giving than to be selfish. After a while, you will discover the appropriate balance. But that's not a worry here. Remember, this will compensate. Hey, you may even discover that you're more selfish or scarce than you previously thought. Once you've removed the scarcity junk from your mind and replaced it with abundance, something awesome happens. Empathy happens. With empathy comes solutions, and solutions will make your customers' lives easier. It'll make your customers extremely happy, and you'll share the joy of doing an incredible job for someone. Now that we've got our head on straight, let's think about how we're going to help people. Greater than services, greater than keywords, greater than sales. What skills do you have that are enough to help someone? You don't have to be a master at your craft. Just skilled enough to solve someone's problem and get paid for it. Honestly, you could even try to do something a little outside your skill level. It won't be a problem because your willingness to help someone will compensate for it, and you'll likely learn the skills needed to complete the job in the process. So really, don't sweat it. For the purpose of our discussion, write down different categories of skills you have to help someone. It doesn't have to be very specific right now. We will refine the list later. Skills, greater than keywords, greater than sales. I'm a big fan of grow what you know Allah. So when refining your list, I would pick your strongest skill. For the purpose of this exercise, let's say my strongest skill is graphic design or visual work. I'm going to create a list of services. Broadly speaking, this is a list of things you could do with your current skill set. It'll serve as a basis for our later, so your list may look like this. Looking at our list, there are a few things I ask before really deciding to offer a certain service. Remember, obviously, but there are a few other things to consider. These are variations of questions related to time and scale. I think when we start off freelancing, we will often bite at anything that we know we can do. This is fine, but we don't want to stay here forever. With some experience, you will begin to understand the scope of what you do and set boundaries for what you'll not do. You'll begin to notice patterns and processes or routines or whatever in your freelancing practice. The important thing to know is that if your processes are defined and replicatable, it can be streamlined. If your processes are streamlined, it will take a lot less for you to perform a service, and it will be easier to train someone else to perform those processes in the future. The best sort of service, in my opinion, is one which someone will consistently need to be served. I'm not a big fan of one-and-done gigs, or buyers who only want a service done once in a while. The main reason for this is, say that you go and create a $100 logo in under an hour, which is easy money on the surface. But that client may have taken 3 hours to find and close. Also, that client will probably never buy from you again. With a recurring service, on the other hand, you can take the same amount of time to pick up a client, knock the project out of the ballpark, and have them coming back for the indefinite future. The time needed to find clients really adds up, so I'd rather lock down a few solid paying clients instead of dozens of one-timers. It's a much different game, and in my opinion, a more rewarding one when your goal is to create lifelong relationships with your clients. Your few hours of searching Craigslist can bloom into strong ties with your clients and potentially years of steady income. Now, what about the off chance that you perform a service that has good retention value, but you still haven't been able to create an easily replicatable processes? This may be a point where you're experiencing growing pains. I've found that unless your processes are replicatable, then it's going to be harder to retain customers. There is only so much you can do alone, and your performance will suffer over time. But if your service is replicatable and consistently needed, guess what? You have a recipe for creating an agency. Even if you're working online, there may still be the need to work during a specific time frame depending on the type of work. I typically like project-based services, with a clear outcome that can be delivered within a time frame. This gives you the freedom to work when you're fresh and perform your best, not when you'll have meetings and need to talk to clients, but it can be done on your time. There is a real elite of people who'd like to work from anywhere. Images of people in hammocks on the coast of Fiji with a laptop come to mind. Sure, working from anywhere is cool, but remember that the end goal is to build systems so you'll not have to work much at all. This can be done online or offline, and I'd argue the biggest advantage of being an online freelancer is your worldwide reach. That you can work anywhere you'd like. It's certainly a nice benefit, but not the goal. I mean, who wants to work? So this is something to keep in mind. Additionally, depending on where you live, your accessibility to clients may be a lot smaller for offline work. Just like we can't do unscalable stuff forever, we can't settle for low margins, either. This is an area I'm currently fixing. Taking on an intern so I can grab higher paying work in the meantime. Said something in his Facebook group that hit home really well. If you want to do well with this, you need to plan to have margins. Margins are going to allow you the breathing room to maintain success. Laptop breaks? No worries. You got some margins. Need to take a week off? You got margins. Want to travel a little? Margins. Margins is incredibly important. So keep it in the back of your mind. If I were to do it differently, I'd ask for more from my customers in the beginning but offer a money-back guarantee. So, you better be sure as hell to deliver your money's worth and then some. Now, my personal favorite flavor at the moment is to perform a service with a defined, replicatable outcome. A good retention value, a way to easily train subcontractors, a clear deliverable to be completed within a time frame. The ability to reach a worldwide audience. Okay, margins changing this. So for the purpose of this exercise, a good pick based on my flavor would be we're working with a defined, replicatable outcome. Clients who need consistent work accomplished, either a marketing agency or business, a way to easily train or find other graphic designers to do what you do. Clear deliverables to be completed within a specific time frame. Worldwide clients. and because of this line of work, a potentially worldwide impact, good margins. You are contributing to your client's brand value. Hopefully this will get you thinking about exactly what service you'll provide, setting you up with a solid foundation in the beginning. Maybe you already have some terms in your head that you'd like to search Craigslist for. By all means, go ahead and type some search terms into the gigs section for the largest metropolitan areas. Maybe respond to some posts if you're experienced or brave. Here are a few to start off now. Our first search is not going to be pretty. There will be a lot of garbage to sift through usually. But in the meantime, I think you'll be hugely surprised by the number of leads to work with. Just to test. Here are the results of just searching the New York site. I mean, how can we go wrong with a full page of, from one city alone? Now, ultimately we don't want to try drinking through a fire hose, so in the next 2 posts, we will dig deeper into using some very powerful search tools to help narrow our search. See the intern and internship keywords from the search query. These are called search booleans, and they are used to exclude terms in the search results. Unfortunately, Craigslist is notorious for lots of employers looking for interns. So, adding these 2 terms will help narrow your search to more serious prospects. In a later post we will dig deeper into search booleans, allowing you to really streamline your search process. Very cool. I'll need to get this brain dump down before next Tuesday's release date and see how much lines up. Haha. All the best, based MJ. Marked notable, moved to hustles or bootstrap category. This is funny to me. And I also think you're a bit confused about Upwork, and precisely how much work it is to hire or manage people on a platform who are primarily focused on with what's in it for me. Ditch that, and you'll learn stand out from the herd real fast. Think I'm kidding? I hired 19 people and spent over $4,000 the last 2 months on Upwork just for run-of-the-mill content alone, and let me tell you, it's a part-time effing job just to deal with it all. Hate it. Not to mention, there is some functionality that is seriously lacking in the UI of the buyer side, making it impossible to clone existing offers. Making it take 5 times as long to set up bullshit milestones in the structure or format that most people like to use. Holy waste of time. It takes a very long time to find good reliable people on that platform. The juice isn't really worth the squeeze if you ask me, which is probably not helping the barrier to entry for newbie freelancers. Eventually I will write a public review about Upwork, to both send to their team, and to illustrate the 40-some screenshots I have of the most common bullshit excuses that typically end up arriving after a few jobs. Even from 5-star hires that have earned $30,000 or more on the platform. Pretty ridiculous when people can make $50 or hour. It usually goes a little something like this. The only positive that has come out of all this that made me feel good, was being able to help 2 kids under 15 earn some extra cash. I have an unlimited budget for them. Now I get all my writers off of Upwork as fast as possible and on the phone, and simply Venmo them. So much easier. Not to mention the recent complaints about Upwork raising their fee structure from 10% to 20%, and freelancers wanting you to pay more just to make the same money. What freelancers also don't know, is you also get charged a CC fee every time you upload funds. Bringing their total take now from both sides, to just under 25% combined. I've listed some pain points. Maybe someone out there will use this to their advantage, or perhaps a competing platform will see this and beat them under the hood. Because the UI could definitely use some tweaking. Lol, I read that the same. However, I think he was saying so that didn't have to repost the same stuff, rather than accusing you of doing so. Great thread. Please keep it up. I spoke to my wife about this. She gave me a little bit of side eye when I told her what I was looking at. Craigslist? Really? Isn't that a little shady? Is the response I got. What I see is a whole page of leads to jobs or work. It never crossed my mind to look on CL. I'll do the same as and post my results. I'm really curious to see what happens. In the last section we talked a bit about defining our services. Once you have a solid understanding of what you'd like to do, you can begin engaging in the marketplace. Some of you may have begun to search for opportunities in large metropolitan areas, or maybe even in your own location. Now, maybe you started off like me and just went to the home page of Craigslist, aimlessly browsing through each site. But there's a big problem. There's over 600 Craigslist sites to browse around the world, and 477 cities in the USA and Canada alone. You'd be mad to try and manually browse all of them. Thankfully there is a service that consolidates Craigslist results by instead of cities, making our search much easier. So using our example from last time, we can start searching for social graphics gigs across the USA, but instead condensing our search to only for the sake of experimentation. I'm going to scroll down to the region near the bottom of the results and open in a new tab. When you open one of these regions, your search results when redirected to Craigslist shown below. This is huge, as Craigslist not only displays results from Search Tempest will save you a lot of time, as the alternative is blindly jumping around Craigslist from city to city. Essentially we have collected 14 warm leads just looking at the screenshot from one search alone. You can now go back to Search Tempest, rinse and repeat with the remaining 25 regions of the United States. As a side note, you're going to find most relevant listings in large population centers, especially for creative gigs like graphic design, but that doesn't take away the value of scrubbing the entire country for that hidden diamond in the rough. One of my best clients came from Montana, which I'm pretty sure has more wild deer living there than people, so just keep this in the back of your mind. When you think it'd be dumb to check out Alaska for gigs, freaking check out Alaska. Now, the only problem we have at this point is that we could be using way too many search queries when it can be compiled into one instead. For example, you can type into Search Tempest a bunch of terms like logo designer, graphic designer, logo design, graphic design, photo editor, photo editing, but this approach can lead us to information overload, again, aimlessly fluttering around Craigslist. Let's run the math. We have 26 regions in the USA. Multiply that by the number of queries we have above, which are 7. If you were to manually type all of these terms into Search Tempest and view every single region's Craigslist results, you'd have to sift through of results. That's a stupidly huge time suck. Thankfully there are Craigslist search booleans, which are operators that allow you to essentially. We already saw one boolean operator in our previous post, which excludes the term in turn from our search. For our next post, I'll dive into consolidating our search into a single string called a, cutting down that number down to just. But for now, I'll give you a sneak peek at what a looks like. Below, we return to an example of our logo designer, graphic designer, logo design, graphic design, photo editor, photo editing converted to our. The above string is one I've personally used to search for one-off graphics work, and in the next post I'll show exactly how to construct your own to work for you. Craigslist being a wretched hive of scum and villainy is a common misconception. Maybe in the case of buying a couch from a stranger, sure. It may be daunting. B2B seems like a totally different game, though. These are just business owners genuinely needing help. Of course, do your due diligence. Craigslist is not a magic bullet and must be coupled with other methods of acquiring leads. But the fact that most people thinks it's terrible, and that a quick search on the forum returns 0 posts about using Craigslist as a leads source can give you a huge advantage. In just what I have seen so far, I was astonished at the possibilities. Far more than I imagined there would be. I saw a lot of potential. More than I expected. I even threw my hat in the ring. I was so curious about this technique that I used Facebook jobs section on mobile. Good stuff. I'll do more digging this weekend. 1. Reads post. 2. Says FCKU to Upwork and looks for an alternative freelance website. 3. Signs in, submits a proposal. 5 minutes later, thank you very much for giving a different perspective. Of course there be more websites than Upwork. I was cracking my head against the same wall as you did. Congrats, what an awesome post. Keep it up. Noting that this post is getting a lot of new random likes, I'll review what's been written and finish it with a couple more new sections. Bear with me folks. It's been over a year. I concur. Hope you get a chance to update soon. I'm starting right now. Stop replying to people's ads and start writing ads that will get people to reply to you. I never message people individually because 1. It would take forever. 2. I'd be dealing with people who weren't qualified properly. 3. Shady marketers create ads for list building. The best way to get leads off Craigslist is to learn copywriting. Actually, no. Here's why. 1. You can create a template that will save you immense amounts of time. 2. If they're explicitly asking for the service you can provide, then they're qualified. It comes down to keywords you look for. 3. If you're suggesting to do the inverse of this method, posting a service is offered to several cities, it won't work. I've tried. Here's why. 1. Nobody just casually browses the services section. If they're really looking for what you can provide, they'll seek it out by making a CL post or searching Google. 2. Unless you want to manually keep track of posts on 150 plus individual CL sites with corresponding logins, proxies, and phone numbers, as well as replacing your post every 7 days or less since every other bonehead will bury your posts, then do not attempt the inverse. Look, I get that responding to ads one by one can be time-consuming. But it got me started. This whole thread was about improving your chances of getting those first freelance clients by looking where nobody else will. People from all over the country will still be emailing this person for the next 2 to 4 weeks. You need to be one of the first people to respond to these types of posts to have any sort of consistent success. Not only that, but you also need to address the prospect's needs, which you can't do because a lot of Craigslist gig posts are extremely vague. All they know is that they want a website or logo. It's like playing tag with a blindfold. In my particular niche, the results were opposite. Very few people responding to their post qualified enough to handle the job. Bottom line, YMMV. So far, however, you've contributed of an alternative that would work better. All I see is cherry picking and excuses. Tall hat, no cattle. If you're so convinced that this method is bullshit, then post a thread including a different method and the results of your findings. This thread is not theory. Is there anything you would change about this method for 2018 to 2019? Do you think it's still just as effective? I know your post isn't that old, but Search Tempest has changed a little and perhaps there are some new tools out there too. Thanks. Some questions regarding this. What do you do when the following happens? 1. Ads are placed by agencies. 2. They are looking for local people only. How do you get around that? 3. Ad says pay commensurate with experience. 4. They are looking for an intern only. Also, I thought I would go with SEO as that is one of the most in-demand services as shown by a high volume of keyword search. Search Tempest found 3 ads only and they all fit the questions being asked above. Graphics or graphic design is a little better as at least 7 cities had ads, still going through them, but again either they are vague or fit the above criteria. What is the appropriate way to approach the situation? Thank you. Any issues with them wanting to see samples or asking you about your experience? Did they ask if you owned a website? Any tips on negotiations? Is that for my post or the one talking about Elementor? Sorry, but you did not say who you were addressing it to. It was for Unreal Creative, bump. The main thing I've changed is instead of using Tempest alone, is to take the RSS feeds generated from Craigslist and plug it into an RSS reader so you have one place all your leads head to. I've meant to write about this since starting the thread but got busy. I've used the Craigslist method to find pretty great deals for housing, but haven't used it for business in a long time. Nowadays I've found it more useful long-term to learn how to drive traffic to your own site from AdWords etc., as opposed to going all outbound. Just preference obviously, but for the right model and person this method can still work. Never wanted to claim it's the magic bullet, only an option in your arsenal for generating leads. Okay, thanks. And I agree. I like the RSS feed idea though.